As said, I will first give us an introduction to EPing, and then I will show you live how the website works. So what we will be talking about today, about product requirements, of course, and just to set the scene, I'll give some examples. Let's say that beer sold on the Trinidad and Tobago market must be labeled including warnings on intoxication. Or let's say if you're selling jewelry on the US market, you cannot treat those jewels with chemicals damaging the environment. These are product requirements, and both products that are produced domestically or imported need to comply with these product requirements, of course. So you're exporting beer to Trinidad and Tobago, you need to label your product according to the Trinidad and Tobago regulations. Or you're exporting jewelry to the US, you need to use environment-friendly products to clean these jewels. So this is just to kind of set the scene. This is what we will be talking about today, the product requirements. The World Trade Organization actually sets out a framework for countries to regulate their product requirements. So members of the WTO, they cannot do as they like when they develop these product requirements. They need to do this within the rules and regulations that the WTO, SPS, and TBT agreements set out. And the goal of these agreements is to avoid unnecessary barriers to trade. What do these agreements do? On the one hand, they set out conditions for these regulations. For example, you cannot implement a measure that is more trade restrictive than necessary. Let's say little kids can there is a choking hazard when you give little kids nuts to eat. So often it is you are advised against giving your kids nuts when they are under the age of 3. A country cannot say it's forbidden to import nuts in my country because there is a risk for kids under the age of 3. No, in this case, labeling would suffice. So these are some of the conditions that the WTO agreement set for regulating your product requirements. Another example is that you cannot discriminate, for example. You cannot say, oh, Jamaica, you can import and use this pesticide on your bananas, but the US, you cannot use these pesticides on your bananas. No, you have to have the same rules for all members of the WTO at least. So this is what the SPS and TBT agreements do. But it's not only regulating, they also have transparency obligations included. And this transparency obligations, to put a general ask from the WTO members that they are completely transparent in their product requirements, so that they let anybody who is interested in these product requirements give them their information on these product requirements, and also to inform the WTO timely when they're planning on changing these product requirements. And it's on this aspect of the SPS and TBT agreement that we will be talking today, about these transparency obligations. Obligation sounds like it's not very beneficial, but actually, of course, there is a flip side to obligations. There are a lot of advantages tied to these obligations, because if all members need to provide information on product requirements in their markets, well, then all the other members, of course, have that information available for them to act upon. And I'll give you now some examples of these benefits that are included in this SPS and TBT agreement. For example, each country needs to set up an access point where you can go to get information on these product requirements. For Lucia, for TBT, for the TBT agreement, that is the Lucia Bureau of Standards. And so each country has such an access point where you can go to get information on technical regulation. Members are also obligated to inform the WTO when they plan on changing product requirements in future. So this allows everybody who is exporting to that country to be informed about this new product requirement before it enters into force, so you can adjust your production process and prepare for that in a timely manner. So that's what I was referring to. So you have time to adapt to the new requirements or ask questions about them if they are not clear. You can also submit comments on proposed regulation. Let's say that the US is changing its regulation on, let's say, fruits. They let everybody know we're planning on changing our regulation, while all other members of the WTO can comment on that regulation before it enters into force, so that everything is very clear about the regulation and it follows the conditions set out in the SPS and TBT agreements. You can also request an extension for providing comments on the regulation. So there are many benefits included in these transparency provisions. And the one I will be talking about today mostly is this being informed about upcoming changes and product requirements, because that is what EPing is about. It also talks about these access points and about comments, but mainly through EPing, what you can do is stay informed on the product requirements that are important to you in terms of products and export markets. It's extremely important, of course, to stay informed on product requirements, because you need to adjust your production process, possibly, or you need to address a potential issue if for some reason you cannot comply with a new regulation. And this all to avoid trade disruption, to make sure that your trade can keep being exported to your export markets. Let me give you an example to make this very concrete. Let's say the UK is changing its product requirements concerning bananas, and from now on, or not from now on, they have to do it beforehand. They want to, in future, make it obligated that you package your bananas in environment-friendly packaging. How does the St. Lucian banana producer and exporter know about these upcoming changes? And if they have problems with these new regulations, or if something is not clear, how can they follow up on it before it enters into force? So before their trade their exports might be affected. Well, the UK needs to notify the WTO when they are planning on changing their product requirements concerning bananas. And this they do through SPS and TBT notifications. So any WTO member who plans on changing its product requirements in the future has to notify the WTO through a notification. And a notification, I will show you one in a minute, and we've seen an example in Werner's presentation. It's just a 2-page summary of the new regulation, of what they want to do in future concerning that particular product. That information arrives at the WTO, and then EPing takes that information from the WTO and sends it to whoever's interested in this particular piece of information via email. Once you know that there is a change coming up, you can take several actions to follow up on that new regulation. You might want to inform stakeholders in your country about the upcoming change. Maybe you want to liaise at a regional level to respond to this planned change in product requirements. Maybe you want to start preparing to adjust to the measures. So if you're exporting in a non-environment bananas packaged in a non-environmental friendly packaging, you might want to start looking for alternatives. Which one can you use that would both protect your products and is environment friendly? So you can start preparing. And it can also be an inspiration for your own regulation. It is possible, for example, that UK says at some point we want to prohibit a certain use of a pesticide because it's not healthy for the environment. Well, I can imagine that's also not healthy for the environment in St. Lucia. So maybe you also want to change your national regulations in your country. Furthermore, you can request info if the planned regulation that will enter into force later, maybe in a year or in 2 years, is not clear. If you don't know which products it covers, you can ask information about this. You can also submit comments. And when you submit comments within a certain deadline, the UK is obligated to take these comments into account when drafting the final measure of their planned regulation. And you can also raise a specific trade concern. You can raise an issue at the WTO during a TBT or SPS committee meeting. So there are several follow-up actions you can take once you receive a notification of your interest. And here, EPing can also help because it helps to start a national and even international dialogue on that particular product regulation. So this is basically what EPing is about. This is an example of a notification. This is a notification from the EU. They sent to the WTO on 15 March. So it comes from the European Union. You can see it there. You have the notifying member. You see which products are covered. That's fruits, vegetables, rice, and wheat. Very detailed a very detailed explanation you have there. What is the description? What do they want to do with this new regulation? They want to lower existing maximum levels for cadmium or establish new levels if they weren't established yet. So this is what it is about. So really important if you're exporting fruits to the European Union that you know that this will be that this measure will be entering into force in the future. So you might have to adjust the way the levels of cadmium in your fruits and vegetables. You also have the link to the full text. So this is a 2-page summary of the proposed regulation. Often the members already have a draft regulation available. It's not the final text, but it's their first draft, and they will share links to that draft of the regulation in this notification. And you have also information on when the measure is planned to enter into force. So there is all types of information there that is really useful for you. We receive a lot of these SPS and TBT notifications at the WTO, which means a lot of product requirements are changing in the WTO members. And so over the last 3 years, we received more than 5,000 notifications, which is a really high amount, high amount, of course. And these notifications, as I said, come from all over the world, and they deal with all kinds of products. Can be on textiles, food and beverages, can be on broadcasting equipment, cars, chemicals, internet protocols, fruits, vegetables, toys, live animals, you name it, probably there is a notification about. So there is a lot of information to keep tracking and to be informed about. And it's not, it might be even too much to follow up, because who can read 5,000 notifications per year to see if there's something interesting for his or her sector or export product? Well, this is where EPing this is why we've actually built EPing, because what is this platform? It is an alert system to which you can subscribe to receive notifications that match your interests in terms of products and markets. That means that if you're exporting bananas to the UK and to the US, you can tell the EPing system, hi, I only want to receive notifications from the US and the UK dealing with bananas or dealing with fruits. And then you will be receiving an email in your inbox when the UK or the US is planning on changing its product requirements on fruits, but you won't receive any other notifications. Furthermore, EPing also contains a communication platform or several communication platforms where you can discuss these incoming notifications. And you can see whether or not it's necessary to take follow-up actions. And this is supported or facilitated by the inquiry points, who can, if necessary, liaise with the notifying country to receive additional information on the notification or the notified text. So EPing helps you to stay informed on the one hand, and on the other hand, it helps you to follow up on these planned changes in product requirements. Just a little bit on the users before we go to the platform itself. We have in total a bit over 13,000 users, and I checked for St. Lucia, there are 16. That doesn't seem a lot, but taking into account the population size of St. Lucia, it's actually not bad. And then who is registering on EPing? Well, it's about half of the people registering on EPing are from the public sector and half of them are from the private sector. So this was the introduction. If you have any questions, I don't think we are so many on the call. So please, you can put them in the chat or either raise your hand to discuss something. If you put them on the chat, I can't read it simultaneously while presenting, but I will go to the chat once the presentation is done and check if there's any questions I can answer. So now we'll go to the platform itself to introduce it. So what will I talk about? I will tell you how you can track changing product requirements and how you can receive information and discuss these product requirements. So first, tracking notifications. Oh, I'm sorry. For some reason, I have my apologies. This is the Vietnamese version of how the homepage looks like. I will show you the live version immediately in English, so you understand what's there. So this is the EPing homepage. And to register, you need to click on the here on this registration button, or you click here on this registration button. It goes to the same page. If you click here, this window will pop up, and this is the registration form. And here you just need to fill out this form and then click on, you can see it here because there is some information on Zoom, but there is register. If you click there, you will have registered. I'll just quickly go over this form because there are some things that are really important. I would like to say some words about personal information. I think that's quite straightforward. You can just fill this out. And then for password, you just choose a password you want to use to log in to EPing later on. So this is quite straightforward, I think. Then what next part of the form is where you indicate in which products and markets you are interested. So on which type of in which type of notifications you would be interested, dealing with which products and dealing with which markets. So for the products, you have three boxes there, and to get the best results, it's important to fill out each of these boxes. Description, here you just type the product you're interested in. So that would be, let's say you're exporting bananas, you say bananas or fruit, or I don't know, maybe also exporting plantains. I'm just, so this is how you fill out this. You just put all the words that refer to your product there. Then the HS and ICS codes, these are actually classifications of products. And here you need to select the right code, the code that matches the products you are interested in. So I can imagine you don't know the HS code of the product or you don't know the ICS code, but that's no problem. What you can do is just type the name of the product. There you go, you have, I typed bananas and you see the code, corresponding code pops up, and then you can just select those codes that are relevant for you. And the same for the ICS codes. You just type banana. If there is no results, that's possible that there is no exact match. You can try either another word or a broader category. So let me go for fruit. Is there? Yeah, I can choose fruit. So here I can go for fruit, or maybe it's just fruit, veg, or maybe this code fits better, or this, or also you can also select all of them. So there you go. So this is how you fill this out. Just really important to fill each of these boxes to get the best results. So this is really, good to know. And then here under select export markets, here you select the markets you're interested in. Maybe you want to stay updated about product requirements in Trinidad and Tobago, in Barbados, and Jamaica and the US. So you just type the markets and then you select them. So now I will get notifications on bananas and fruits and coming from Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, Jamaica, and the US. So this is how you fill out this part. You can also say, I only want to receive notifications on SPS or TBT. For the private sector, it's not important, this difference. I would suggest you choose all, because whether it's an SPS or a TBT measure, it doesn't matter. If it concerns bananas and it's from Trinidad and Tobago, it's important to you. So it can imagine, for example, if you're working in the government and you only deal with TBT notifications, then you might say, okay, I only want to receive TBT or only want to receive SPS notifications. At the bottom of this form, you can choose to receive daily or weekly emails, or no emails if you don't want to receive emails. And then you can also say, yes, I want to receive a notification when there is additional information added to a notification. So on EPing, it is possible to add information to a notification. For example, to add a translation of a notified text or to give some other information. And if you click here, then you will receive an email when information is added to a notification that matches your registration filter. So this is how you register on EPing. We'll do this live in a minute. I just wanted to show you how an email alert looks. I think I've told all this. This is how the email alert looks like. It's just a daily or a weekly email alert listing those notifications that match your interest. And there you have notifying member, symbol, title, and description of content of the notification. You see which products it's about, the comment deadline. So as I have told you, whenever a member submits a notification to the WTO on a new product requirement, they need to provide time for all other members to give comments on that notified text. And the other members need to do that within a deadline. And that deadline you can read here. Also interesting is here the last column is full text link. So as I said, a notification is just a summary of a planned change in a product on a product requirement. To read the full text of that regulation, you can click on the link here if such a link is provided by the member. So I would suggest, if that's okay with you, you would all go to the EPing website and try to register yourself. We can take 5 minutes for it, I guess, and let me know through chat or just by raising your hand or taking the floor if you have any questions or issues concerning the registration. I'll just stop sharing for a minute also, and I'll put the URL to go to EPing in the chat window. So that's EPing, that's www.epingalert.org. So I would suggest you all go to this website and try to register. And if you encounter any issues, if something is not clear, let me know and I will try to give further explanations. So maybe while you are all trying to register, just for those for whom it was not entirely clear, I will also share my screen and register on EPing, so you can follow the process also. So.
Perhaps while the sign up is taking place, Lottie, you can remind. We have one person here from the Ministry of Agriculture who would. I know you mentioned SPS, but just so she knows that she can pick the SPS option. And are we logging in? Are people actually going through the sign up?
Yes, I'm doing it now.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so as I showed, for those that are more interested in SPS notifications, so EPing, of course, covers both SPS and TBT notifications. So what you can do, I'll just share my screen again. So what you can do is, I'll just go to the beginning again. If this is the home page, you click on register. This window will pop up and you see under notification type here, you can choose to only receive SPS notifications or only receive TBT notifications. So this is where you can, and maybe something I forgot to mention, if you want to receive all SPS notifications, you can leave these boxes blank. So the select products, if you leave these blank and then select markets, you also leave this blank, you'll receive everything. You won't receive 5,000 emails for each notification, of course. You will receive either a daily or a weekly email listing those new notifications that match your registration filter. Maybe you want to receive all notifications from a certain market. You can also do that. So you can just leave the select products blank here and just select the markets you want to stay informed about. That's also an option, of course. And here, country, territory, of course, here it's important to choose the St. Lucia, where you are residing, not what your place of birth is or your nationality, but where you are living in now and from which you are exporting or from which you are trading or producing. So I don't know if you have Any questions? You feel free to put them in the chat, or if something is not clear, let me know. I think we'll, in 1 minute, continue with the presentation. Yes, sure. Maybe I can also, sorry, was there a question? Maybe I can also mention that once you've registered, you can always update your profile. So it's not final. You can always go back to your account. I'll show you in a minute how that's done, and you can change your filter criteria. So if you don't want to go through the hassle of selecting all ICS and HS codes now, you can do that later. Yeah, you can do that anytime you want. Okay, I don't know, maybe it's, you can put in the chat if you have any questions, that's a very good question. Should I register as personal or as your business? It depends a bit. We often suggest if you have a generic email address that, for example, I don't know, slbs@.org, not a personal account, but an account from your business, I would suggest you use that one, because it's always possible that you change jobs, you want to do something else, you switch, and then also the account or the information is lost in a way. If you use your generic email address, however, whoever comes next can just take over he will take over that inbox, and with that inbox also the EPing email alerts that arrive in that inbox. So yeah, I would suggest if you have a generic email address that you can use, I would suggest you use that one just for continuity, to have continuity. And thank you for the question. It's a great question. So if I don't hear any protests, I suggest that I continue the presentation. I hope it worked well. Otherwise, feel free to ask any questions on how to register. Thank you for confirming the sign up. So what else can you do on EPing? Yeah, before explaining what else you can do on EPing, I just wanted to quickly explain you what a notification, how to read a notification symbol. It's very brief, but just it gives you a lot of information already by looking at the symbol. And if you know once, you will remember forever. So each notification has the symbol, which looks a bit weird. So let's look quickly at how you can read such a symbol. Well, it's quite easy once you know, actually. The G stands for good counsel. You can forget about it, but every notification starts with a G. It means that both DBT and SPS agreements fall under the good counsel. The N stands for notification. That's pretty straightforward. Here you can see whether it's an SPS or a TBT notification. So it says either SPS or TBT. Here you can see the country that is notifying. If it would be St. Lucia, it would be LCA. You see the abbreviation of the member that is notifying, and this is the serial number of the notification. This is the 465th notification from Mexico on TBT matters. Sometimes you can also see addenda after the symbol, or corrigenda or revision. This just means that if it's an addenda, that information has been added to the notification. Maybe the date of entry into force was not known, but when the measure was notified, but then once known, they can submit an addenda to a notification with the date of entry into force. Corrigenda is just to correct a mistake in the notification they submitted to the WTO. And REV stands for revision. It means that the notified text has been substantially revised, and then they will submit a new notification, and it will have an addition here. It says REV. So this just on the symbol to kind of know how to read it. So on EPing, besides registering to receive alerts, you can also search the database. I will also go to the website now and show you how you can search the database. So this is for some reason it says it's in English, in Spanish. My apologies. I normally work in the English version of the website, but sometimes I switch. So this is here you can select the language. If you would prefer to work in Spanish, French, or Vietnamese, we also have the website in Vietnamese. Just here in the right corner, you can select the language. So you can on the website also search the existing notifications, and therefore you click on search notification. And here you access a database with all notifications submitted to the WTO. There are more than 70,000 SPS and TBT notifications that you can browse here. You can browse by notifying member, symbol, title, and description of content, distribution date, products covered, objectives, keywords, comment deadline, and here you have the full text link to the full text of the notified text. You can also export your results. If you have done a search, let's say you want to see notifications from the UK on fruits. There you are, there are 3. And then, so if you want to download these results, you click on export results, and then you have the results in an Excel file available. You can also download the notification format by clicking on EN if you want the English version, ES if you want the Spanish version, and FR if you want the French version. It's quite straightforward. You just click, and then you can open that particular notification. There you go. So here is the notification from the UK on foods. You can also save a notification in a favorites list. So it's just a custom list where you add those notifications you want to add. So you can click on the star and say add to notifications. And then to find that particular notification, you click on favorites here in the main menu, and here you see UK, the notification I just added. You can also, and this is maybe the most important feature I will show you on the search page, is save a search query. And to do so, you just click save here. You give it a name. It's on UK fruits. And you click enter. And then here, whenever you are logged in on the EPing website, you can revisit this search filter. And it will list all the notifications, also the new ones that match these criteria. What is particularly useful about creating additional filters is that when a notification, a new notification, matches the search criteria, so when a new notification from the UK on foods is submitted to the WTO, it will also be included in your email alert in a separate table. So I'll show you on slides how that looks like. So this is in my email alert. I have a first table listing all notifications that match my registration filter. But under that table, I have a separate table listing all notifications that match a filter I've created on agriculture and chemical products. And under that table, I have another table listing all new notifications that match a filter I've created on COVID-19. So what you can do basically is create tables in your email alert, and then in one glance you see in which areas something has changed. So if you, for example, set up a table for different markets, for example, you're exporting to both the US and the UK, you can set up a filter for notifications from the US and set up a filter for notifications from the UK, and then whenever a new notification matches these filters that you've saved, they will be included in your email alert in a separate table. So this is why this saving of filters can be really useful. Going back to the presentation, this part So I just now have explained how you can create email alerts and how you can search the database. And now we will talk a little bit about how you can use EPing also to connect with national stakeholders. So on EPing, each notification has a little space tied to it where you can discuss that notification at the domestic level. So each notification has a little space where everybody from St. Lucia can talk about that notification, write something, and share that with other St. Lucia EPing users. Other users, EPing users from other countries, from Jamaica, from the UK, from Barbados, cannot access this space. So this is really just domestic only for you available. And important, if you post something on this forum, the inquiry point will be alerted. So whenever you ask a question on this forum, the inquiry point will receive an email and can follow up on your question. So if you have a question on whether you're not sure if your product will be affected by a new measure, you can just ask it. If you need a translation of a measure or you need a full text of a measure, you can ask it on the forum, and then the inquiry point in St. Lucia can follow up with the notifying member. I'll just show you on the website where you can find these national fora. So going back here, you see the first step is all notifications. If you click here, you find the 17,000 notifications in the database. Let's say you have a question on this notification from New Zealand dealing with something seeds for sowing. Let's say you have a question on this. Here on the right side, you find the text balloon. If you click on the text balloon, a window will pop up. And here the second tab is National Forum. If you click here, you can ask any question you have on the particular notification, and you can also add a file if you want. You just click post. The minute you click post, an email goes out to the inquiry point, and he or she can then follow up on your question you've asked here. So this is really a handy tool if you have any questions on the notification, you want to discuss it, you don't know how to comply with it, you're not sure what to do next, you can ask your question here and you can discuss it at the national level. What else can you do on EPing? Is, as I said in the beginning of my presentation, each WTO member, and that's 164 countries, has established an SPS and a TBT inquiry point. And you can send an email to the inquiry point to get information on a particular notification. So where can you find that information? If you go to the main menu and you click on inquiry points, if you click here, you have the list of all TBT inquiry points per country and SPS inquiry points per country. So if you have a question, you can just click on you can also search the particular country. Let me get St. Lucia here. So here you have St. Lucia, the SPS inquiry point. And if you have a question, you can just click on either of the email addresses or copy or put both as addresses, and you can start writing a message. Same for TBT. You just type the country you want to ask a question, and then you click on the email address. I think, and I guess Vernet will confirm this, whenever you have a question on a notification, any notification that arrives in your inbox, I suggest you go first to the inquiry point of your country and discuss the matter. If you think it's necessary to then contact the inquiry point of the notifying member, then you can do that together with the inquiry point of your country. But here you can find the list of these inquiry points. So these are really useful addresses whenever you have questions on notifications. Sorry, this is when you want to send an email, you just click on the email and then your email program will open with the person you clicked on in the to field. Then finally, this is where you can find the information. And as I said, you can contact inquiry points via email. Finally, I just wanted to mention, we've already discussed a lot, so I won't go into detail too much, but there is also an international forum tied to each notification. So each notification has a national forum and an international forum. On that international forum, information can be added, but only by those people that have admin rights. Don't worry too much about it. These rights are typically given to inquiry points. And so inquiry points can add additional information that is visible for all users, not only for the users in your country, but for all users. And of course, all users can access that information, but they cannot post something, so they can only view their passive readers. And this feature is also used for sharing official comments on notification. I mentioned before that it is possible to submit a comment on a notification, and the notifying member needs to take that comment into account. Well, you can also share these notifications on the international forum. If there are questions about, I'm happy to show you and show you some examples of comments that have been posted on the forum, but taking the time into account, I won't go into detail now and see if there are any questions on that. So maybe something else I mentioned the admin rights already. For private sector, this is not relevant. It's more for government officials, because we give these rights to government officials working on SPS and TMT matters, typically inquiry points, but it can be also extended to other government officials beyond the inquiry points. And why would you request these admin rights? It allows you to manage the EPing tool at the national level. You can access the list of all users in your country. You can manage the national fora. You can activate them and then manage them if questions are placed on the fora. And you also have access to the international forum, and you also have access to admin chat, where you can talk to other admin users from other countries. I just wanted to mention this for most of you, this won't be relevant, but it might be relevant for some of you, and therefore I wanted to mention this. But if you have questions on this, I'm happy to answer them during the Q&A, or if you send me an email, I'll happy to answer any questions on this. And if you have questions, please, this is the email address you can direct them to. I am the person managing this account, and I'll try to answer you as soon as I can. So that was it from my side. I wanted to thank you very much, and please do not hesitate. Any questions you have, I'm here to answer them. If I can, of course, that is.
Yes, can I ask a question now?
Sure.
Most times you will get a call from a manufacturer who may ask you, what are the requirements for entry of fruits, for example, into the US? This platform, you get the notifications. If there are any notifications for fruits, you'll get it. But what about other information? Does it allow you to see other requirements for the product? Can you say, okay, if I want to know what is required for fruits in the US, can I use this platform to do so?
So thank you. That's a very good question. I often get that in training. Sometimes I add a slide to my presentations on this, but this time it wasn't included. So EPing deals really, it's dealing with the product requirements. That means, and certification requirements. For example, there's safety requirements when you create technical electrical equipments, health product requirements when you export foods that you need to comply with. So you cannot use certain pesticides. They need to be, the things that are bad for health cannot be, the products bad for health cannot be used when treating the produce and so on. So these are really the product requirements. When you want to start exporting to a new market, there is more than the product requirements you need to know. There is also more custom regulations you need to be acquainted with to be able to export your produce. There are certain tariffs, possibly, not often, but sometimes there are tariffs involved. These things are outside of the EPing scope or the SPS and TBT scope for that matter. So if you want to start exploring a market, if you have a call, you get a call from the private sector asking, how can I start exporting to the US? How can I export my fruits? You need more than the information that is on EPing. What you can do with EPing is search the database to see which notifications have been submitted by the US on fruits, and you can check the most recent. Those will be the most relevant to start with, but you need more. And for those for what else you need, what you can do is contact the inquiry point on the US side, because they need to give you the information that you need partly. And then there are also several online platforms that you can use to get more information on these certification procedures you need to go through, or custom procedures you need to go through. And one of these websites that can help you is the Global Trade Help Desk. I don't know if you know that help desk is a project from ITC, the International Trade Center. And there you can, if you can just type in the market and product you're interested in, and you will get a lot of information on how to export to that particular market on your product. So and then, of course, if that private sector person has asked you to, how can I access the US market with my foods? I would also recommend them, of course, to subscribe on EPing, because once you start exporting to that market, you still need to stay updated on changes in the product requirements. So we've seen this example of a notification from the European Union on fruits that was issued in March or February this year, on new regulations on maximum levels of cadmium. So if you're already exporting your fruits to the EU, you need to be aware that this is changing and that you might need to change something in your production process to be able to keep exporting to the EU. So there is also, I would of course also very much recommend that person to also subscribe to EPing, to in future also stay informed about what is changing on the market. And maybe sure, go ahead.
To add to what you have said, Lottie, and to the questions then asked, an inquiry, there are more than one inquiry point that can exist in a country. So whereas the inquiry point is basically functioning for products for the TBT agreement, there are other inquiry points that will support information for transit procedures, customs, applied tariffs and duties, and all of the other concerns that or needs that an individual will have when trying to import or export, appeal procedures, penalty provisions, provisions relating to administration of tariff quotas. Now, UNCTAD just published a website for assistance to support that sort of information. It's a virtual kind of inquiry point that deals with not just product requirements, but basically other areas, single window kind of thing. It is businessfacilitation.org. And whereas all countries or all blocks have not signed up to it or provide information to support it, but it's working where some of the countries have already identified what areas they want to put online, and you can go there and get some information that you need, because we use it to access information in certain markets for our stakeholders who require information. So if we don't get it there, we will contact an inquiry point. The inquiry point may not be responsible for that kind of information, but they will put you through to the inquiry point. So that's what we do here. We may not be able to provide all of the information in relation to all of the inquiries. However, we have access to emails and contact information for other personnel at other departments where they may not have a formalized inquiry point, but that's where you go to get that kind of information.
Thank you very much, Bernard, for your additional information. I've also put the two websites Bernard and I talked about in the chat, so you can also have a look there. It's the Global Trade Help Desk and the Business Facilitation website.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the EPing tool, what you can find there, what you cannot find there? I'm just quickly checking the chat if there were any questions put there. Everything is perfectly clear. Happy to hear that.
Can you just show again how you save additional filters on the website?
Sure, no, absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you. So just go to the website again. So moving my presentation. Right, so this is this business facilitation. I think this, Fernand, was the website you were talking about, right? So I haven't seen it, so I'm curious to explore it.
That's what I was talking about.
Perfect. So let's go back to I'll start from the homepage. I think that's the easiest. When you want to save a filter on the EPing website, you need to make sure you're logged on, of course, because the EPing system needs to know who wants to save a filter. So if you're not logged in, you can just click I'm logged in now. But if you're not logged in, you will have an option here which says login. Click there, you log in, and then you can save a filter on the website. You just go to search notifications to access the EPing database. So here in the main menu, you have search notifications, and here you have all SPS notifications ever issued. And then if you want to save a filter, so you can track a certain sector or a certain market, you just need to define that filter. I don't know, let's say you're selling to the US, so you select US, you can select several markets. You're also exporting to Trinidad and Tobago, to Barbados, and so on. UK, oh, it's Ukraine, sorry, and UK. And then depending on the products you're interested, you need to fill out these boxes. So I'll just go with the fruits example again, because it's an easy one. So you type fruits. Also select HS and ICS codes. Again, no problem if you don't know these codes. You can just start typing the name of your product. And then you select those codes that correspond with your product. And the same for ICS. I'm interested in fruits, so I just type fruits. And then you select those codes relevant. And then you click here on the right side on Save. And if you click on Save here, a new tab will pop up. And here you can give it a name. So this was several markets on fruits, so I'll just call it fruits for now. And then, so you give it a name and you click enter, and then you have saved the filter. And now whenever you see this one I've created during the presentation, it's still here because it will stay there. So whenever you go to the EPing website and you're logged in, you can consult these filters, and the new notifications that match the filter will be listed here. In addition, if there is a new notification that matches this filter, it will also be included in your email alert in a separate table. So from now on, if I keep these filters, from now on, I will also have a table in my email alert called UK Fruits if there is a new notifications that match these search criteria, and the same for the fruits filter. So I hope that was clear. Do you have any particular questions?
Yes, I understand now.
Thank you.